Hi, this is Tyler DeLon with DeLon Rigging Solutions. Rigging work is often done at height, so the risk of falling is one that we often encounter. In the USA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA for short, requires employers to mitigate reasonably foreseeable hazards, and since we're in an industry with stages, there are many. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health has developed one of the most useful tools for this, called the hierarchy of control, which is an inverted pyramid with the most desirable options at the top. There are 5 levels of the triangle. At the top is elimination, which means that the risk is physically removed at the source. It is the preferred solution because no risk exposure occurs when no risk exists. Next, substitution, which replaces the hazard with a safer option that is better but might still be hazardous. When considering substitutes, it is important to compare the potential new risks of the substitute to the original risks and how each will combine with other aspects of the workplace. Effective substitutes both reduce the potential for harm and do not create new risks. Engineering controls isolate the worker from the hazard by using barriers or kill switches. These top 3 are most effective because they control the exposure without the worker needing to be significantly involved in the mitigation. Administrative controls are changes to the way people work when they are around the hazard. These may include limiting access to hazardous areas or machinery or adjusting the work pace. And at the bottom of the triangle is PPE, personal protective equipment. Commonly used PPE in the entertainment industry includes safety glasses, hearing protection, safety toe shoes, appropriate gloves, and hard hats or safety helmets. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, employers should not rely on PPE alone to control hazards, especially when other effective options are available. PPE can be effective, but only when workers use it correctly and consistently. PPE might seem to be less expensive than other options, but it can be costly over time, especially when used by multiple workers on a daily basis, since employers are required to provide PPE to their workers. Administrative controls and PPE use require a significant ongoing effort by workers and supervisors. They are most useful when employers are in the process of implementing other control methods from the hierarchy. Additionally, administrative controls and PPE are useful for existing processes where hazards are not well controlled. And that last part is why we find ourselves often needing to use PPE in the entertainment industry, because we work in a variety of venues with a variety of safety controls or sometimes none. We might be the ones installing the risk mitigation equipment. So how does this work for the biggest risks that riggers face? The risk of falling. Let's say there's a hole in the grid of a theater that is large enough a person can easily fall through it. That risk can be eliminated by covering the hole with something that is safe to walk on and meets OSHA's requirements for a walking working surface. Passive controls include things that users do not have to activate or interact with to mitigate the hazard. A hole in the grid might have an OSHA-compliant guardrail around it. Sometimes these are designed where a portion of the railing might be removed temporarily while additional mitigation controls are used. Often, this level of hazard control involves utilizing PPE to prevent individuals from interacting with the hazard. An active control for a hole in the grid is often a fall restraint harness with work positioning and restraints, or an SRL that is short enough that the worker cannot get close enough to the hole to be able to fall through it. Fall arrest is the most commonly used form of fall hazard control in the entertainment industry. The worker wears a harness specifically designed for fall arrest and adjusted to their body shape and size. The harness is tethered to an attachment point with a shock-absorbing lanyard. The worker can still fall into the hole, but the shock-absorbing lanyard will slow their fall, so they will hopefully not be seriously injured nor come in contact with the hazard like the walking working surface below. Because a fall like this is quite taxing on the body, this also requires a rescue plan where others quickly lower the fallen individual down to the surface, the ground, and ensure they receive appropriate medical attention. There are harnesses that can be used for work positioning, fall restraint, and fall arrest. And it's important to use the right harness as well as the correct harness D-rings depending on the kind of protection desired. This is using PPE not to prevent individuals from interacting with a hazard, but to prevent or lessen the injury they would sustain from interacting with the hazard. Entertainment technicians wear PPE that is meant to mitigate someone's injury, not prevent them from coming in contact with a hazard. In our example, administrative controls are the least desirable because they do very little to protect the worker from the actual hazard. Most theaters treat the grid as a controlled access zone, so only workers who have been specifically trained on how to avoid the hazards found up there are permitted to go there. The hazard itself is not mitigated. The worker is more aware of the risks. Administrative controls are often an acknowledgement that there is a risk with no effective or practical way to make things safer. Instead, the employer will simply make everyone aware of the danger and hope that no one gets hurt. In the end, it is important that each worker understands the risks they will encounter, knows how to mitigate them, and is authorized to take corrective action as soon as they encounter one. Please remember that DeLong Rigging Solutions one-shot training videos are meant as general information. Every system is different and every venue has different procedures, and even the same show in different places has different needs. All statements made make certain assumptions about systems and venue similarities. Nothing can replace on-site training with a qualified individual. If you ever have a question or concern about rigging, do not hesitate to reach out to us or another qualified vendor in your area.